You have arrived at the Leadership Circle meeting that we're calling today Innovation Nation, How a Circular Economy Can Make America Create Again. If you're new to the Leadership Circle, we are a community of philanthropists, corporate leaders, activists, influencers, strategists, etc., across 10 kinds of power that come together to learn, build relationships together, and collaborate around solutions for a healthy environment and democracy. We start every meeting with some terms of engagement that set out how we intend to have this meeting. We want to be curious and open to learning. We want to show respect to others and suspend our judgment. We want to look for common ground, be authentic and welcome that from others. And part of that is also being purposeful and to the point, as our time is together is limited, and to own and guide the conversation. We all are here to get the most out of it that we can. Uh, with those terms of engagement, we also have 4 guiding principles, which are no demons, no denials, no excuses, and no delays. This work is urgent. We must start now. So, assuming thumbs up on all of that, then we're ready to go.
Ducey,
Yes,
this is Steve Ruda calling here. First of all, I wish happy birthday to Bill, but I wrote a haiku for Bill.
let's hear it. We love it.
Oh
Okay, because
my.
you inspired me about yesterday when we had a call, and I said basically inspired by your work bridging the businesses and the environment. Okay, that's what I wrote this haiku for. Okay, so let me read this to you: bridging green and growth, calm hands guide the restless tide. Future blooms in trust.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. That is wonderful. I feel honored. I'm so grateful.
Well,
I'd like
you
to,
adhere to we call the in Japanese you adhere to we call the Bushido Code,
Bushido
and
code.
the Bushido Code. If you ever have a chance to take a look at
Okay.
Bushido Code is I'm Japanese American, but I'm also the eldest of our family all the way back to the 13th century in Japan. And the Bushido Code is all about honoring and the stewardship and inspiring others to excel. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the areas I think you've done very well, Bill. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you. It's really good to hear. Really good to hear.
We are have 2 parts of the meeting this morning. For in the first part, we're going to hear from Carsten Sudhoff, author of No One Wins Alone, the book that came out just yesterday. And we're going to talk about structured networking, which is clearly very important for this group. We want to make sure that we use your time well and that we're all getting something out of this in order to advance our mutual aims. And the second part of the meeting will be meeting our circular economy innovators. We're really excited to have a bunch of exciting businesses and entrepreneurs here today to share their work with you. And without further ado, Bill is going to share a little bit about why this topic today.
Great. Thank you. And it was, well, actually, it was, what, 35 years ago in my garden that I came to understand systems and how they innovate and how they create. I'd moved into Sacramento, I bought a house, I landscaped myself the backyard, created a little creek and created an area that looked so natural and it was beautiful. And then the sun came and burned all the flowers that I had meticulously planted around. And then the winter came and a flow of water came down my fake creek and tore everything out. And then the fall came and these bugs inhabited the backs of the leaves of my, prize trees. And everything was kind of destroyed because it wasn't real nature. It just looked like nature. But out beyond my house, there was real nature. The environment had been scraped over and damaged by the forces of industry and so on. But the ecosystem was recovering all on its own and had a beautiful set of plants that emerged on their own from the seeds that had been laying in wait. And I thought, wow, if I had only harnessed nature rather than trying to just create it artificially, I would have a thriving garden. And I think that's the difference between the industrial economy, the take, make, waste economy that we have now, and the circular economy that is waiting to be released. A circular economy is often popularly understood as a materials recycling economy, an economy that keeps materials in flow with the highest recovery possible. But this alone is a failing strategy. Recycling does not erase entropy. Materials break down each time they are used. And recovering and restoring those materials can cost more ecologically as well as economically than going out and getting a new supply. Many folks, when they recognize this reality, say, well, then we need to reduce and reuse. And there is tremendous potential for reducing and reusing waste. But tapping it fully requires a higher level understanding of how a natural ecosystem works, of what a circular economy is. It is not just banning what we can't recycle. It is not just mandating a path of reuse that might actually cost more ecologically than throwing it away. These mechanical approaches won't work if the system that we're operating within is structured to make those things more costly, or if they are just intrinsically more costly. A circular economy is not just a mechanistic recycling machine. It is a living ecosystem. It is an economy that goes the extra step to move from that line of extraction to disposal to a circle with no clear beginning or end. And in fact, a kind of a spiral that spirals small and spirals bigger in terms of the amount of life that it releases. Unlike a linear, mechanistic, industrial take, make, waste system, which thrives on uniformity, on globalization and global sameness, on conformity, on extraction, mass extraction, and on spending, a circular economy thrives like nature. So a circular economy fundamentally is an economy that is more like nature. It thrives on not uniformity, but diversity. It thrives on specialization, where individuals become more specialized and therefore more diverse, and therefore more connected and interdependent on one another, and therefore more creative, because as these parts form wholes, new capacities are released. In a circular economy, in a living ecosystem of any kind, when diverse parts connect together to form a whole, they unleash something that is potential in their parts, that is only revealed when they come together. This is true at every level of creation, from atoms and simpler than atoms, all the way up to human populations. Each combination of identical protons, neutrons, and electrons form a unique atomic element. They are the same parts, but they come together differently in different numbers and different orientations to create a different atomic element. 134, however many atomic elements we know of, each one distinctive, each one producing value that is not present in its parts, that only comes together in the whole. Same thing is true with people. When people come together who are distinctive and different, when populations come together that are distinctive and different, they are complementary to one another. And creation, innovation comes from that. Here in the room, we have a number of folks. I mean, there are so many innovators actually around this table today. And to understand innovation in a circular economy, we have Carsten Sudhoff. I'm going to hand it back to Doozy now to introduce Carsten and learn a little bit about how we create a framework for structured networking that leads to more innovation and creativity in a circular frame. So, Doozy.
Okay, well, very quickly, thank you, Bill. Karsten, we are very excited to have you. We met Karsten about only 4 or 5 months ago, but found in him a kindred spirit as he's been helping people and organizations change the way they connect, collaborate, and succeed for a good portion of his career and through his organization called Circular Society. And I will leave it to Karsten to share more.
Thank you, Doozy. Thank you, Bill. What an honor, what a pleasure to be here. I'm calling in from Zurich, so it's the end of my day. I am incredibly excited because this week is really one of a kind. As Bill said, my book was just published yesterday. Different from some of you, it actually was 12 years in the making. Not 1 year or 2 years, but it took me 12 years and 11,000 people around the world to test and refine my method that I'm going to share with you in the next 10, 15 minutes. And so I'm humbled and happy and very excited to share something that is very close to my heart. Why do I talk about networking and circular society or circularity? I was born the son of a diplomat and an art historian in London, and I was raised in 8 countries on 3 continents. I knew from a get-go that moving countries and continents would be part of my life. I learned pretty quickly how to connect with new people in new countries, but the question was, how do I stay in contact with all other people that I don't live in the same country anymore? I studied in France, which was the first time that I encountered a structured approach to networking in the shape of my alumni network, which I didn't really use then. I then joined the automotive manufacturing company Daimler Chrysler in the high potential program, and I was told, Carsten, you need to create yourself a network. I took the order, but I had no clue how to do this. Nobody taught me what this would mean to build a network. I spent 12 years in this amazing company. I watched a lot of people pursue a career, maybe faster than others, maybe because of their network. I watched a few people be a bit less, let's say, advantageous when it comes to their own career, maybe because they lacked a network, but I did understand the system. I then joined the World Economic Forum, that is again happening these days in Davos, as the Chief Human Resource Officer, and I spent 5.5 amazing years looking at the world from a bird's eye view. And I spent many occasions with top decision makers from politics, business, civil society, and academia, not just sharing the air, but actually sitting down with them and talking about geopolitical and socioeconomic topics. And I thought to myself, how is it possible that some people so seamlessly get to network with others, and why is it so difficult for others? Is maybe networking something that is restrained to the white extroverted male? Or can anybody do this? Or do you need a safe space like the Congress Center in Davos, Switzerland? Or can you do this anywhere? So I created a method, or rather a hypothesis. Is there a method that can turn anybody into a successful networker? I left the World Economic Forum after having been exposed to the idea of a circular economy. I mean, the idea has been around since 1972, I think. It only really became somewhat mainstream in 2010, more or less. And I thought this is a great concept, the circular economy, but where is the Homo sapiens? Where's the human being in this equation? So I created my first company and I coined the term circular society. And I spent many years going to these top executives, the CEOs around the world that I all met in Davos, to try and sell my ideas around networking and building human ecosystems. And I can tell you that the first 5, 6 years of these were let's say these 12 years as an entrepreneur were rather difficult because these CEOs would look at me and listen to me and they say, you know, Carsten, you seem like a pretty cool guy, but what you're trying to do there with this networking and building human ecosystems, that all sounds like holding hands and singing Kumbaya. What we need is an increase in turnover, an increase in market share, and an increase in EBIT, and not this modern stuff. Anyway, I believed in what I was doing because I believed that you and me together is better than you alone and me alone. And I spent the last 12 years creating a business concept that I've again tested and refined. And I'd love to share a few slides with you. And Duzi, if you could switch to the first page, please. So this is what my book looks like. It's out in German and English, and maybe you can switch to the next page. I came to realize that there's some problems where you realize you need the help of at least one other person. And the question is, who is that other person and how on earth do I reach that person? Next page, please. Now, I did not invent networking, of course. What I did invent is structured networking. And let me try and explain what I mean by that. So structured networking is based on three core principles. It has to be intentional, it has to be clear, and has to be reciprocal, versus the typical networking that I've observed in the last 12 years, working with 10, 11,000 people in pretty much every country or in every continent around the world, where let's say I get pushed into an event, I don't really want to be there, I feel totally uncomfortable, I come into a room and there are 100 unfamiliar faces, people that I don't know. I feel awful. Oh my God, life is terrible. Why do I have to be here? Oh, hang on. There's Bill. Oh, at least one person that I know. I go over to Bill. Bill and I are happy to see each other. We talk about the good old times. We have maybe 3 glasses of Prosecco together, and then we go home with zero impact on our network. I already know Bill. I don't have to go to that event to meet him. I could meet him, well, theoretically for a virtual coffee tomorrow because we live like 12,000 kilometers apart. But anyway, for the sake of the argument. So the idea really is to create some kind of methodology to make networking more intentional based on clarity and reciprocity. Next page, please. My book has 2 parts. Part A is all about the method, the modules, the words, the sentences, and the question that I've come to realize people need in order to start a conversation. I realize that most people feel uncomfortable in a situation where they don't know anybody and they don't know how to break the ice. So part A of the book has all the words and sentences and questions that you need to actually start a structured networking conversation. And part B focuses on 5 areas of application. You see them here. So how do you actually get the most out of a networking event? How do you use structured networking for the job search? I have, in the last 10 years, helped 6,000 people find a new job across all industries, all sectors, and all levels using this methodology. The third point is, how do you use structured networking inside of an organization to find knowledge, to improve project management, to advance your career, or to develop your business? And fourth, and this is the example I brought today, which I'll show you at the end of my short presentation. How do you apply structured networking to a collaboration between different organizations to fix a commercial problem that one organization alone cannot fix? And the last point is, how do you apply structured networking to build public-private partnerships? Next page, please. Please do interrupt me if something is too quick or not understandable. I've done these kinds of speeches many, many times, but I know what I'm saying, but I would love, of course, to download as much as I can to you guys. So if you have questions, please just raise your hand. Otherwise, I'll continue. So this chart is important because it correlates who am I and what am I looking for. I spent so many years helping people to find a job, as I said before. And people typically make this rookie mistake. I would say, I would approach Bill. Sorry, Bill, I'm just going to use your name. You don't have to do anything. I just need a name to anchor my arguments. So I would go up to Bill and say, hey, Bill, by the way, I lost my job. If ever you hear anything, please think of me. And Bill, because he's nice, he will nod. But what will happen? Nothing. Because he doesn't really know what my own brand is. Who am I? What do I stand for? What am I good at? And how am I different from other people? So this is the x-axis. Sorry, go back. Sorry. So Bill wouldn't know what I stand for. So my own brand isn't probably clear to him because I probably have not communicated it to him in a clear way. And the y-axis is basically the difference between unstructured and structured networking. So if he doesn't know what I'm looking for and he doesn't know who I am or what I stand for, He might want to help, but he doesn't know how, and he won't do anything because people, I've learned, rather do nothing than the wrong thing. And that's not Bill's mistake, that's my mistake. If I don't put Bill in the position to help me because he has a clear understanding of who I am, what I stand for, and what I'm good at, etc., so my own brand, and if he doesn't know what I'm really looking for, there's no way he will be able to help me. Next page, please. So the concept of structured networking is based on these 5 core building blocks. The first one is the role of the seeker. That's the person that is looking for something. Might be looking for a job, might be looking for wisdom or contact, whatever else. The second role is the role of the connector, who understands that what the seeker is looking for, but says, I'm not the right person that the seeker is looking for, but I think I might be able to help with somebody in my network. And the giver is obviously the person that the seeker is looking for. And the task is the search request, what the seeker is looking for, and the own brand is what I said on the x-axis. So all this is actually pretty simple, and I find very inspiring because most people, when they enter a networking conversation because they have to actually solve a problem, sorry, let's go back. So that most people see themselves exclusively in the role of the seeker, as somebody who needs to ask for help and they feel bad about this, they feel weak about this, they don't dare to do this. But the moment people realize that in the same conversation that you might have entered as a seeker, you can also be a connector or a giver, it suddenly levels the playing field. And I think it makes structured networking to the coolest thing in the world. Next page, please. Now, of course, many people struggle with self-doubts. Here's a story. Top executive from a pharma company that I worked with. A female top executive, had some 500 people in her team, extrovert, alpha woman. She lost her job because of restructuring. I knew that the job that she would get would come through networking and not through, I don't know, LinkedIn, but she just didn't want to do it. So I pushed her, and she said, no, I don't want to do this. I feel really bad. I said, why? Well, she said, I lost my job and I'm a nobody now. I said, what do you mean a nobody? Well, I lost my job and now you want me to connect with people and ask for help. I don't want to do this. I don't feel good about this. I said, wait, hang on. This is the wrong approach. Let's go back in time when you still had your job. Okay, she said. And I asked her, in that job, did you actually get called by other people and ask for help? Of course, she said, all the time. And I said, so how did that make you feel? Nothing, she said. That was normal. And I said, see, if you got asked then and felt totally normal, people will feel totally okay if you ask them for help now under 2 conditions. Your x-axis, your personal brand, and your y-axis, your task, are clear. So in this approach to find out who can help me, it's important to understand how well are people connected. So if, let's say, I want to get hold of Bill, I don't have direct connection, but I have connection to Doozy. I need to understand how well is Doozy and Bill connected. She might be poorly connected, in which case she might be the wrong connector, and then either have to find a new connector, or I ask Doozy, by the way, do you have anybody else in your network who knows Bill better than you, and could you actually connect me through that person to Bill? So that's all about network strength. Network memory is a cool little game that I invented, and I need 3 more minutes. I know that I have 15 to go, so I think I'm good in time. So this network memory is a game that we can all play as of now. I highly invite you to play this in your pastime. So I typically play this on a weekend. You all know the game memory that babies play, where little cards are placed face down on the floor, and you turn them around, and you have to create matching pairs between images of cats or cars or houses and so on. And networking memory works the same way. So I play this typically by going to my LinkedIn contacts. I sort them alphabetically. I try and remember where I stopped, with what letter I stopped. And that was probably last time that was the letter D. So now the next letter is E. So I scroll down to the first name with E. And the first name that appears is Emil. I can't think of anything about Emil, so I'm going to go to the next name. Erik is the next name. So I spent a few moments thinking, Erik, hang on, he's in crypto financing. Yeah, Erik is in crypto financing. Hang on, my friend Zando is in crypto financing. Yeah, that's right. That's what's going on in my head. And I think, hey, I could connect those 2 people. So because I do this all the time, and because I'm lazy, I have a ready-made Word document with 4 identical messages in 4 different languages that I work in. Messages like, Dear X, Dear Y, I would like to put you in contact because I've realized you're working on a similar topic and I could imagine that the exchange will be mutually enriching. Happy networking, Carsten. So I go to LinkedIn, I press on Erik, I press on Sandro, I copy the message, paste it to LinkedIn, change the names, press send. Takes me 5 seconds. And then I move on. Next page, please. I'm going to skip the network request for the issue time. So the coolest question that I've found in these years of working with people all over the world is the question, how can I help you? Now, it sounds obvious, but the thing is, I have seen so few people who actually offer this to other people because we fear that we can't provide the requests that we get. So again, I've trained thousands and thousands of people to ask this question, and I've heard from thousands and thousands of people. I don't feel comfortable to ask people this question because what if I can't do what they ask me to? And say, okay, I understand. Why don't you try it? And I can tell you, hundreds and hundreds of people have come back and said, hey, Carsten, I tried this question. I applied. How can I help you? This is a brilliant question. This is the coolest question ever. And I said, yeah, it is the coolest question. If I could, I would have intellectual property right on this question. I can't. It's not my question. But it's the coolest question. Why? Because I believe that the human being is educated, that life is all about taking, but networking requires giving. And so by asking this question and then hopefully following suit with a request, I automatically position myself as a connector and as a giver. And I'm going to skip to the last page, and now it gets maybe interesting for this circular economy or the circularity idea. One example, and then I'm done. I'm happy to take your questions. So I heavily believe in the idea that you and me together is better than you alone and me alone. And here is a true example, one of many, many that I've worked on in the past. This is actually chapter 9 in my book. I've done many of these projects all over the world. So in this case, my chapter 9, a big pharma company asked me to help them overcome economic issues in a variety of different countries. This example comes from Latin America. The CEO of this pharma company in Central America was tasked to sell a drug for a rare disease. Now, the nature of a rare disease is there are not a lot of patients. That's why they're called rare, and they're typically pretty expensive. The CEO of this company had already gone to the health ministry to ask for reimbursement, and the health ministry said, well, it's a great product, but we don't have money. We can't reimburse. So if the health ministry can't reimburse, the doctor can't prescribe. If the doctor can't prescribe, the patient can't buy. If the patient can't buy, then the pharma company can't sell. So it's not a nice to have problem, it's a commercial existential problem. So I led them through this circular process of 7 different steps. First, we said, okay, now what would good look like? We call this the memorandum. It's like a task for an ecosystem. What are we actually going to try and do? What problem are we going to try and fix? I then said, okay, let's go and find possible other ecosystem members, other companies that are in a similar position, other organizations that might be very interested in fixing this problem, government agencies, patient advocacy leaders, doctors, etc., etc. We then approached them under point 9 using the structured networking approach. We found ways to connect to 20 organizations altogether. In step 4, we then analyzed who actually fits the early stages of this ecosystem because you don't want to bring in people who jeopardize your idea. So there's a process in my book how to, let's say, evaluate who should come in first and who might actually join much later. In step 5, we then went back to the memorandum and said, okay, now we are a big team of 20 different organizations. We need to find a memorandum that fits everybody. A bit like in a coalition contract after an election. If you have 2 or 3 parties coming together, every party needs to be represented in the coalition contract because otherwise the coalition doesn't hold until the next election. So that's what you do in step 5. In step 6, you go through a co-innovation process to find a solution that fits everybody, that provides a result to everybody. And then in step 7, you roll out and you see what happens, and maybe you scale or you stop there. So the result here was, and I'll stop with these last sentences. The result was we identified a health insurance company that was one of those 20 organizations. We created a healthcare policy or a product that was targeted at young, newlywed couples that did not have kids yet. So they could buy an insurance coverage for the eventuality that their kids, their unborn kids, would have a rare disease. So 4 pharma companies had joined. They were happy. They could finally sell their products. The insurance company was happy because they got a new product they could sell. The government was happy. They had a solution without any money. The doctors were happy, and the families were happy because with this product, they were either, if you had then a kid with a rare disease, either the kid is seriously ill or maybe even dies, God forbid, or the family is financially in ruins, or both. So all this is only possible if organizations come together. And this idea of structured networking is the method to do this, because I heavily believe that you and me together is you alone, better than you alone and me alone. And I'll stop. Sorry for taking more than my 15 minutes, Lucy.
Thank you, Carsten. I wonder what questions or reactions people might have to that. And I will send the slides also so you can have them going forward. If you want to raise your hand using the Zoom function, or just raise your hand, or just unmute yourself, you are welcome to.
And if you have any examples as well to relate in partnerships that you developed through networking, who it was, how you came upon them, and what resulted. I'd love to hear your examples.
Samantha
I think
has a
Samantha
question.
put up her hand.
Quick question. You, and maybe I missed this early on in the presentation, but you mentioned the x-axis being personal brand and the y-axis being task. But I think I missed the context for that. If you could explain that.
So the x-axis is who am I and what do I stand for? So if I can be a bit more detailed. So the unclear personal brand means I'm not really sure who I am. I'm not really sure how I'm different from other people. I'm not really sure what I'm good at. Or I'm not good at communicating this to other people who don't know me in a way that they understand what I stand for. That's the unclear personal brand. And the clear brand is obviously the opposite. The ability to, in a nutshell, linguistically refined, in a punchy way, communicate or spin a story that other people get. And the y-axis is this targeted, this structured approach to formulating a task that other people understand and can actually can help you find a solution for. Does that help, Samantha? Great.
Joni?
Yes. Thank you so much. This is just brilliant, Carsten. So happy to meet you and see all of this. I'm Joni Clark. I'm here in Aspen, Colorado. And I got involved in government and sustainability when I moved here in 1971, and was a skier and a mountain climber, going to the Himalayas and around becoming sort of an ambassador of the I'm very excited because I worked with John Denver and the Windstar Foundation and Rocky Mountain Institute, Amy Levins, and right now I'm doing a show on our grassroots YouTube network called The Soul of Aspen, Our Culture and DNA. And I just had a nice interview with Amy Levins and Judy, and our Aspen core of geniuses and humanitarians. I'd like to offer doing a show with you and on our Soul of Aspen, because we talk about the circular economy. With Amory and Bill, have you going to be on our Soul of Aspen show, because it's about the culture and DNA, and present this, because I always say Aspen's the center of the universe, because no matter where you go, or I've gone, whether it's the Himalayas or Europe or living in Bali for years and years, which I still do, starting a bamboo foundation on environment, I feel a lot like you when you were raised all over the world and networking and bringing people together, doing things. I totally understand, and respect that it's so powerful what you've been able to assimilate in the circular economy, because it's right on target with everything I'm doing. And I'd love to promote the book and everything EarthX and we're doing
Joni, that's a really
in
generous
Bill
offer. I think
Shireman's
Thank you.
EarthX.
we should take that
That's
offline, I
amazing.
think.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Would you accept my LinkedIn connection if I contact you afterwards, Johnny?
Absolutely. I'm very
I'll reach out.
excited about this.
Thank you.
Great.
Watch
Thank you so
our
much.
show when
Uh,
it's the center of the universe. But watch it anyway.
Thank you. Carmen.
But I'd love to have you on as soon as possible.
Hi, can you hear me? Am I good?
Yep.
Okay. Um, First of all, my name is Carmen Berry, and I'm the editorial director for Writers Integrity Network. It's a new publishing house that's focusing on publishing as many books as we can that are pro-democracy. And being a publisher, I want to tell you that I just purchased your book while we were sitting here. And and maybe no one else will do this for you, but I want to highly promote his book. I think it's amazing. And as a new organization, I've been in publishing since the 80s, but as a new organization, it's been very hard for me to come up with a plan to network around an entirely new industry or setup, which is politics. I've not been involved in politics. So we're definitely going to get your book. I get it on Thursday. No, I get it on Saturday. And then I want to use it with my team and
Thank
see
you.
if we can't get a strategy going where we can extend our networking. So I want to thank you for sharing that today.
Oh, thank you, Carmen. Thank you.
I wonder, we are going to have more questions than we have time for. So I wonder if Walt, Duncan, and Christy, you could briefly share your thoughts, and then Carsten could respond to all of them. Thank you.
Good, Carsten. I have two questions. One is your formula and the mechanics of what you've laid out can come across as mechanical, I would imagine, from time to time. Like, I am a networking machine and this is how I do it. And then there's a way of doing what you know to do, and it comes across authentically. I wonder if you had any thoughts about that sort of authentic, natural way of doing networking rather than sounding like a robot doing networking. And then the other question, I'll leave it at that. Over to Duncan.
Great. In the spirit of the invitation for examples, someone a number of years ago, I was doing like a B2B networking group, and this was like I think the message that he was teaching was like exactly this, and he just always encouraged us like go and just find out what people need, ask them how you can help them, and um and then like once you figure that out, likely they will then ask you what you want. But always the idea was to start with trying to figure out how to
Mhm.
you can support
Mhm.
someone and building that relationship that way, and then building that relationship. And in our local building of democracy hubs right now, that's also an orientation that we're about to do like a training on, which is very specifically to reach out to local partners and find out what do you need? What are you trying to accomplish? And then being like, great, come be part of our group. We would love to help you with that. And so as a way of recruiting too, anyways, it seems the opposite of what you're trying to do, but I just really appreciate this and thanks for that. Just wanted to share those examples.
Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan.
Hello, Carsten. Christy Prescott here from the Forest Works Alliance, and I just want to say I really value networking so much. I appreciate what you are sharing with us in the book and presentation. And just as a method of networking, something that really changed my life was a class that I went through, and it was a facilitated leadership class. And one of the skills that we practiced was deep listening and what that really looks like in behavior and your interactions of not always responding, but really coming to any sort of conversation or interaction with a deep sense of curiosity, reviewing even questions in your off time that can help you open up and explore somebody's background, their intention, where they're coming from, and really diving into just asking questions, these open-ended questions that help you understand somebody, going deeper into that world. And in that way, from my experience, I've found these deep connections in ways that I've connected with people where we've been able to surface what our connection point is. And so that's just something that I've really valued, that's changed, I think, the quality of my relationships and ability to network, and just wanted to share that.
Thank you,
Maybe I
Chris.
just, Christy, if I can just one sentence. So I would differentiate between entering a conversation from a perceived position of strength, where I don't need anything, I don't need anybody's help, I just go and talk and explore, versus I actually have a problem and I cannot fix this myself. So this perceived position of being less good, less worth, and so on, that puts people, in my experience, in a situation where they know they need help, but they don't dare to help. And my book is there to help everybody, also the, let's say, the non-naturals, to have a method, word by word, sentence by sentence, on to overcome this initial fear. And this goes to the question before, the networking machine. Because I've seen that it takes, let's say, 3, 4, 5 times of practicing this method. And it's pretty awful in the beginning because people feel uncomfortable. But once you overcome this initial threshold, the first hurdle, you realize we're actually all the same. I mean, we look different and we might be socialized different in a different way, but on the inside, we're all the same. We all have the same worries, doubts, and wishes, and so on. And there's a method to actually overcome this, let's say, this fear, and instead just work human to human in a circular society kind of fashion.
I wanted to just add very quickly that I'm intrigued. I love what Christy said about deep listening and curiosity, and it occurs to me that this is the answer to Walt's question about authenticity. That, when I actually listen to someone deeply, instead of reacting as I have been to every statement that Donald Trump is making now at Davos, when I listen deeply and try to connect with that person, then it becomes an authentic relationship, an authentic opportunity to connect.
Right. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Carsten. We really appreciate you. And I'm sorry to be cutting this off. I'm sure we could speak much longer about this, but I know that you're all here also because we want to hear from our exciting circular economy innovators. And with that, I'm going to ask each of our 5 innovators to share very quickly, 2 to 3 minutes, about the wonderful work that they're doing. And then we'll have time. Oh, okay. Sorry. Then we'll have time to ask questions and talk about the ecosystem for circular economy innovators. And with that, I would like to hand it off to Jeff Anderson, the CEO of AllMade Materials, which is making a durable, dependable plastic compound made from nutshells.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucy. It's a pleasure to meet everyone. Hopefully you can see, I'm just going to go through a couple of slides. Hopefully you can see the slides now. So we are a manufacturer of plastic composites that are made from almond shells. So our composites, they're USDA bio-based certified. They actually reduce carbon dioxide, so the CO2 content, by 50 to 100% versus a traditional plastic. And we replace about 33 to 50%, so a third to half of the polymer is replaced with almond shells in our different composites, depending on the application. And I think, very importantly, they drop into all of the existing manufacturing. So if you're using injection molding or extrusion or compression molding, you don't have to change the tools or the manufacturing equipment. It just drops right in. And then also, I would say, quite interestingly, they're also sold at cost parity with virgin plastics. So this is really about how do you deliver substantial, measurable sustainability gains, but at no additional cost. Because a lot of the markets that we're in, there's really no additional profit that's available from the buyers to actually subsidize a green premium on products. And so we make these different products. We make these composites, and then we partner with manufacturers of different plastic goods to actually trial them and to push them into the market. So before I get into those applications, one of the questions, why almond shells? And that's because there's a lot of them, right? California produces 80% of the world's almonds, which is really just a staggering statistic. It's a massive, massive operation, massive contribution to the California economy in some of the lowest income counties in the state. And in that production, the industry produces about 1.3 to 1.5 billion pounds, billion with a B as in boy, billion pounds of almond shells that really has no home. So some of these shells would go into animal bedding, but by and large, there really isn't an application for these shells. And so we actually came out of that opportunity, out of the almond board and their efforts to try and valorize this byproduct from agriculture, which is how we developed these different applications. I would note this is a very significant opportunity for the Central Valley to add a lot of economic opportunity. So in our hands with our technology, the shells are actually worth at cost at value parity with plastics, right? Because we're replacing the polymers on a one-for-one basis. So the shells are valued at around 60, 70 cents a pound. And there's 1.3 billion, 1.5 billion pounds of them. It's roughly an opportunity for the Central Valley of around $1.5 billion worth of profit for the industry and economic generation, direct economic generation in the Central Valley. So it's a really interesting opportunity to create economic value while driving sustainability into things that we consume every day at no additional cost. So we're actually involved with manufacturers of plastic goods in a bunch of different applications, which I'll go through very quickly just so you can see some of the pictures. But we're doing ag bins, pallets, residential trash carts, horticulture, greenhouse, nursery pots and trays, as well as developing food packaging applications like yogurt cups. So this is our almond bin. You can see the traditional bins and then our almond bin. So this is 50% almond shells. So this is actually now it's nearly completed with the field trials with all of the largest almond growers and processors in the state. We have pallets. So this is a 2-ton pallet. So these pallets hold about 4,000 pounds. And they sell at price parity with a traditional pallet. So $20 a pallet, which is cost parity for a plastic pallet. Again, that's half almond shells. Then we have the residential trash carts. So here you can see this is actually making in one of the large injection molders using our material to make trash cans. This is actually an indoor trash can. In Q2, we're launching the residential trash carts in a bunch of different communities throughout the state. Again, sold at cost parity. They don't cost anything more, and it's a 50% reduction in CO2 relative to a traditional trash can. And then we have all the greenhouse applications, nursery applications, etc. So these are all of the products made with our compound. So our R&D is we're headquartered in Monterey. We do our production just outside of Fresno, and we're very, very lucky to be partnered and have investment from a bunch of fantastic investors like S2G Ventures, Tom Mulholland, and a bunch of other groups. So that's it. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present.
And I just want to point out, Jeff, that one of the things you said is that this material can be integrated with the existing infrastructure. I think it's essentially an alternative to polypropylene, isn't it? Primarily,
Yes.
or in many cases, yeah. So it can go into the same machines and the same machinery. And polypropylene has been a problem for recycling. So it's really quite surprising to have something that is low cost, that doesn't require people to put more money on the table, and has the environmental and climate benefits, and doesn't require capital expenditures for new equipment.
Exactly. Yep. We basically drop into the amazing infrastructure that already exists in the plastic industry just with a new material. So
Yeah.
we're very lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Thank
Great.
you, Jeff. And there will be more time for questions, but I want to make sure we give everyone a few minutes Robert Bedard, the CEO of MOXY. There you are. I see you. They make Cellulose, a fire, mold, and termite resistant and recyclable building material he will tell you more about.
Hey, you bet. Hey, thank you so much, Ducey and Bill. It's a real honor to be able to join today. And Carsten, very much enjoyed. I've been in stealth for a little over 20 years developing a new building material. So I can certainly assure you that my networking skills are poor and something that I definitely have to work on being in stealth for so long. So thank you for the introduction. Very much like Jeff, we have developed over the last 2 decades a new building material. We actually, through this, we're addressing many pain points of the $1.3 trillion building materials industry and also addressing its environmental hazard. It represents about 23% of the world's CO2 emissions. We are branding this particular material as the name Cellulose, and it addresses its fire resistant, it's water stable, it's mold resistant, and insects and termites can't eat it. So it certainly addresses a number of the challenges that the existing building materials has today. And we do that by three very simple ingredients, with the vast majority of the ingredients being waste, agricultural or forestry waste. We can use any lignocellulosic fiber anywhere globally. This particular fiber, when put with an earth abundant mineral and a liquid, we put it through a very simple, low pressure, low energy, low heat process, which one sequesters the carbon in the fiber permanently. And two, it's a mineralization process, which is much of what nature does. So if you think of a tree one day being organic and the next day or thousands of years later being stone, our process is a gentle blend between both. So we actually have the performance and characteristics as far as performance as a stone, so it doesn't rot, it lasts kind of forever, it doesn't leach, it doesn't burn and things of that nature, but you can work it like wood. And so the beauty is out in the field, carpenters can use standard carpentry tools while still having the benefit of all of the positive attributes of our new material, Cellulose. We do this economically because of the vast majority of input ingredients being that of waste fiber. Our price point going out into the marketplace is similar, if not less than what the competitive products are out there today. Process is circular. We can use our cellulose. So at the end of its use cycle, we don't say life cycle because by science it's a ceramic. It will last for a very, very long time. But its end of use cycle, if they wish, they can return it back to us, which we can granulate and put right back into the process and make 100% new cellulose from it. And or actually, if it was too far to send it to us, you granulate it, is actually a soil fertilizer. So it can be used in either method. We are currently right now just kind of pivoting from our 20-year research and development into commercialization. And our first product that we're going to go out to market with is going to be that of siding. So we are CO2 negative in production. And as we learn a little more, we should be CO2 negative overall. And that's just a little bit about cellulose. And thank you for my 2 minutes.
That's wonderful. I know people will want to learn more. And I've put the link to your website and your email address in the chat. Next,
Thank you.
David Carey, HighGround Ranch Developers, for a different kind of innovation.
Thanks, Ducey. So we want to fix our food system. The food system is fragile. It's been getting worse for over a century. We're losing topsoil, and if no topsoil, no food, no life. And the soil nutrients are declining. So what happens is we cannot grow as much food, so we can't carry as many cattle. We have the lowest supply of cattle in the U.S. since the early 1950s. And so we're becoming more dependent on foreign countries for our food. The food that you buy, you're paying more and you're getting less. The nutrient density has been declining for almost a century too. And the people that produce it don't make money. Almost all of them are dependent on government subsidies, and they're enslaved to the banks. So the banks, they currently have, our producers have over 500 billion in debt right now. That's expected to reach almost 600 just this year alone. So the solution, the innovation world would tell you is we need to create that next thing. Whereas Bill, you caught my attention when you said when you talked about your landscaping debacle, you said if I'd harnessed nature rather than create it. That's the issue sometimes in the startup world. Keep in mind that a breakthrough innovation at one time was fossil fuels. Another one was pesticides. Another one was plastics. Our thought is nature did pretty well without us before we came along. So at HighGround Ranch developers, our goal is to take nature back to its cycle the way it originally worked. And I'll tell you about the strategy in a second, but it involves using regenerative practices. There are two investment opportunities that we're going to be pushing. One is if any of you are real estate investors, there's a value add strategy that few real estate investors have identified for value add. Instead of buying a rundown apartment building or shopping center, we're buying rundown ranches that can't hold many cattle. So I can get it less. The lease value is less, and so we can get the land cheaper. If I can triple the carrying capacity, I triple the lease value. Apply a little leverage, and we get fantastic returns that beat a lot of typical value add strategies. On top of the land is the operation strategy. Using regenerative practices, we can stimulate the soil. If I can stimulate the soil to grow more food, I can put more animals on it. So I spread my fixed costs over more animals. I also buy less feed because they're growing more of my own food. So when we talk about a cycle, how do I share my screen here? The best example I have, I shared with Ducey and Bill. Can you see this? See that okay?
Mm-hmm.
See the difference in the vegetation? This is a 30,000 acre ranch in northern Chihuahua, Mexico, owned by Alejandro Carrillo. The only difference between him and his neighbor is how he moves his animals. See how it's raining over his land and it's not raining over his neighbor? That is called evapotranspiration. His land holds 9 times more water. So when there's evaporation, there's more going up onto his land and coming back down onto his land. That is a circulatory economy right there with his operation. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has named this ranch its own microclimate. So folks, we can fix this in a way that's profitable. With the ranches that we're running, we are targeting land that can hold at least 2,000 head of cattle. So in West Texas, that might be 50,000 acres. In eastern Oklahoma, it might be 10 to 12. So we're talking about carbon sequestration at a massive scale in a way that generates significant profits for the ranchers. So now we create resilience in the ranchers' operations in a way that provides higher quality food for you at a price you don't pay for. Lastly, we are connected to the DoD. So Carsten, in terms of connections, we got connected to the largest ranch in America, who connected us to the Department of Defense. And we're now working with them on starting to ranch on military bases. I won't take the time now to talk about all the benefits of ranching on military bases, but that for our investors, it'll drive the IRR up, but there's some benefits for the Department of Defense there. That's it.
Thank you, David. I appreciate you and sharing that story with us. That's very impressive.
And that slide is just compelling. We just had to share that. That's amazing. And we'll have some time for discussion about that in a bit.
I also put the link to David's website in the chat. Next up, Jeff Nelson, would you please share about Biochosen and the exciting things you're doing with the bioeconomy?
Sure can. Let me share a screen here. So yeah, Jeff Nelson here. Biochosen, we make biodegradable, compostable, and recyclable packaging material made from organic waste. You know the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. We said, why stop at lemonade? Let's make the cup and the straw as well. So for us, you know, we look at the abundant waste, I guess you could, for a bad term, all around us, especially here in the Central Valley. And we see ingredients that we then can make, you know, biodegradable plastic from. So you can see here is like all sorts of waste. We're pretty waste agnostic, if you will. All of them have rich ingredients that we can grab and harness and turn into basically what we turn into is pellets, and then drop those into various converters who will convert them into bags, injection mold, and all sorts of other stuff. So, sure, a simple process, which very similar to what AllMade is doing. Is we're making a pellet that can be converted into lots of different products. So our feedstock's a little broader, and our ultimate goal is to be making it 100% circular. In that, right now, our ultimate goal is to be able to make our bio pellets and also the plastic basically 100% out of organic waste. So like I said, there's lots of waste out there that can be used. And we've developed what we'll call biorefineries that allow us to extract those ingredients. And currently, like I said, we're focused on the bioplastics, but we see lots of other opportunities aside from that, and have been just beginning to prove those out, and I guess protect the properties around intellectual property around that. But the most exciting thing that we're right now is making making pellets and getting those into the hands of multiple converters who make anything, like I said, from bags to extrusion molded things, nursery pots as well. So, and really the focus, like I said, is being truly circular in nature, being what we grab it from, or organic waste. It's used, and at the end of life, it can then be recycled by, it itself is now organic waste. So we can then extract ingredients from it again, or it's compostable, which will return, compost into nature and back and return to nature as, organic soil. So it's truly circular in its nature and its ultimate end goal. So thank you all for your time, and love answering questions and chat more.
We learned a lot about Jeff's innovations and many of these other innovations from Beam and at the California Bioeconomy Summit. The Central Valley here in California is, of course, the breadbasket to the world. We create a tremendous amount of the world's food in certain categories. And we have all the waste here. And it really is a tremendous economic development opportunity for that area of California, a different kind of opportunity than Silicon Valley, and one that can provide a lot of needed economic development. So these are really exciting opportunities for me to see emerging.
That's a great segue to Sharita, our friend Sharita Humphrey at Eco Power Source, who you might have heard from her before if you've been at a leadership circle meeting. If not, she's doing a lot of great work that will build up the communities in Texas. Sharita? Oh, well, if you haven't heard about Eco Power Source, I'll send you the link. They're working on a geothermal hub outside of Houston that is going to be also very focused on community development and lifting up the community there. So more to come on that. In the meantime,
Dennis Garrett was here, left the conversation a little bit ago too, but these are the folks that are bringing the capital in for that, and it really is an extraordinary opportunity, shifting to geothermal power and creating value for a community that has been neglected for generations. So we'll hear more from them at another time.
which gives us time now. We have really rushed you with innovations. You might have want to have dig further into some of them, and now is your time.
I saw some good questions in the chat, so maybe people want to forward some of those.
Georgia. Sorry, Georgia, you're muted.
There we go. Carsten, I wanted to reaffirm something that you suggested that was just so potent. The question, how can I help you? There's a medical program on TV. It's, episodes of all the different medical scenarios that happen. And in the story, the top medical CEO, who, whether he's talking to the board, whether he's talking to a patient, whether he's talking to a nurse, constantly throughout that program, up comes the phrase, how can I help you? And he does it with such caring at all these different levels. And I've never forgotten that sentence throughout that program, how much it stood out. And then to hear you affirm the value of that question and how far it goes, I just said, thank you.
Thank you. May I answer, or let's say add to what Georgia said?
Sure.
Sure.
Because there's an incredible difference in how you say this question. Like, well, I mean, let's say I look past you and I'm not really attentive, and I just say, so how can I help you? You will never believe that I'm honest or intentional. Whereas if I look at you after a conversation, I look in your eyes and say, how can I help you?
Yeah.
It's the same content. It's a very different energetical charge, right?
The power of tone.
One doesn't feel realistic or meant in any way, and the other one opens incredible doors that nobody knew existed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think once you have that experience of helping someone, first of all, there is no mood enhancer better than that. I think when you see that someone's life is better because of something that you've done, it may, we may be programmed a little bit to be selfish and be looking at what will help us to survive, but what sustains us long term is that. And the second is that natural synergy that happens too. When you discover how to help someone else, you realize that you've helped yourself too, generally in the same step, in the same process.
The person who asks the question, as well as the person who gets the question, they both feel surprisingly good. Even the person who asked the question thinks, well, I'm not going to ask that question. It's a silly question. I mean, who am I? They feel good. And it's so simple.
Yeah. Other questions?
Walt, and then Christy had a question in the chat, and then Robert and Steve.
Well, just commenting on what was just said. So the thing about being served or being of service and making a difference and the true joy in that, there's just all kinds of things to say about what really brings joy to life. Anyway, and you were talking about it right then and there. To the recent presenters, my question has to do with innovation and innovation diffusion, i.e., getting things out either into the culture or into the marketplace. I would just invite any comments that any of the presenters had about the challenges or opportunities about really getting your products into market and the barriers to that, overcoming the barriers, but invite a comment or two on that aspect of things.
I'd love to
Thank you
answer
for that,
that
Walt.
if I could, Ducey.
Please.
So the challenge we've had, Walt, is that first of all, the impact VCs I don't think understand our model. At the parent, they think they're investing in land and ranching operations, so asset heavy, tech light, just the opposite. In actuality, we're doing a race for the parent that will hold a venture studio, and so there is access to technology there. But anyway, I think those who could really benefit from this are not seeing it. The other challenge I have is that people are asking, well, how are you going to prove this out? Well, I've shown you Alejandro's ranch. There are hundreds or if not thousands of ranches. It's already being done. We're just pulling all the pieces together in a way that can scale it. So we have access. If you're in the world of regenerative agriculture and you know some of the biggest names, we're connected to all of them, either directly or one of our sister organizations is connected. But people think this is something new that has to be proven out. It's not. We're taking what already exists and trying to scale it. So trying to get that out is my challenge.
Hey,
Anyone else?
Walt, this is Gary Wilson with Biochosen. I also work with Jeff Nelson. And just to address your question about getting to market, I think for us, it's the same point that Jeff Anderson made from AllMade Materials, which is it's so critical that our material can be processed through existing commercial equipment and processes. And so if we have to establish a whole new infrastructure, bring in all new capital equipment is such a barrier to entry. But so far, we find the current converters very receptive because they're using plastic-based materials now, and if we can bring them fully organic-based, biodegradable materials that will run through their equipment in essentially a similar fashion, maybe some slight variations on temperature or ingredient configuration. But they have been very supportive. So right now we're getting ready to start a pilot program at the end of this month on some materials and plant pots and injection molding. But that's key, as Jeff Anderson's already pointed out.
And I just want to point out as well that we have legislation in the state of California, the EPR legislation, and legislation tends to become shaped to serve incumbent industries, not always out of malice, but out of logic and relationships and access. And one of the things that we want to ensure happens under the implementation of the extended producer responsibility legislation here in California, which will be probably a 40-50 billion dollar spend over the next 10 years, is that small local enterprises that are innovating are given a real opportunity to thrive at this time, not just shut out to allow the larger and better lobbying, represented organizations to dominate. A lot of that can happen by mistake, that these companies are pushed to the side. A lot of it can happen quite intentionally, that they're pushed to the side. But we want to ensure that they are not pushed aside, that they are put in line, if not in the front of the line. And if Heidi Sanborn has any, thoughts on this, I'd be interested. Heidi, if you're still on.
I am. Thanks, Bill. And this is of high interest. I mean, I helped negotiate the bill, and it is a concern because regulators, when they do regulations, they only do them based on what they know at that moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that innovations are coming so fast that they literally don't fit in the box of the regulations. And so this has been a challenge to try and figure out, how do you regulate to protect public health and the environment and meet the goals of the state while not suffocating innovators. And it's an ongoing discussion that we have to deal with in any bill, but in this one, it's a big bill that really needs a lot more work in that area.
Well, we will look forward to working with you, Heidi, to help ensure that we have a place for all of the innovators here in California that are making the bioeconomy and other elements of the economy possible.
Absolutely.
Robert Bedard, you've had your hand up for a little while.
Yes, thank you. I had noticed a message coming through about our material, or what is it? So what we are is, it is a brand new material. So you will not have touched it or have seen it anywhere in the world. It's not a plastic. We don't use any resins. We don't have any glues. We're not pressuring anything together that particular way. We really are using a mineralization process, which is a process that we have applied for many patents. So it's a brand new material. When you pick it up and put it in your hand, it feels like wood, but it behaves like stone. So it's very, very interesting new material. That brings us to the challenge that we brought up. How do you commercialize it? When we go to market, or we've gone to market, it just sounds too good to be true. We're using all of this waste biomass, which would normally be rotting or burning and creating CO2. We use all of that. We sequester the carbon in there, so it's never going to be released again. We end up with a material that performs with positive attributes. It doesn't burn, it doesn't shrink, it doesn't swell. Mold will not grow on it. Termites can't eat it. And so what happens is that we get this, well, it's too good to be true. So we lose some interest right off the bat, just from the it's too good to be true. Then from that, we get into, and we have had VC interest. We're proud to say that @ONE, which is one of the largest deep tech environmental VC firms, they have invested in us. But for the most part, probably being in stealth for 20 years, both my networking and communication skills aren't the best, and I really haven't been able to get it out to get the investment that it needs to go forward. And that's where we are.
Can I jump in here for a sec, just because I'm friends and colleagues. I love MOXY, and I've been part of a number of conversations, and I've heard Robert talk about the headwinds of going up against established industries and how these new innovations, I mean, you're market disruptors, interrupters, and there's significant challenges of just displacing or replacing materials that may not be as aligned with the values that we're all advocating for here. But I think that that's what I've heard is one of the biggest challenges. So I wanted to just throw that in there just from what I've heard.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. That's helpful. We have tried to align with some of the existing, and we have spoken with some of the largest building material manufacturers globally. They absolutely all really love our material, but they recognize the cannibalism of it. And so that's the challenge that we face.
Chris?
Great to be here today. I wanted to mention something related to David and regenerative farming, and then bring in the concept of agrivoltaics into the mix. Bill McKibben, who's been a longtime leader in this movement, and pretty skeptical for a long time, but he sees the next big breakthrough as a combination of solar and agriculture. And there's over 70,000 projects around the world right now. So I'm going to send a link to Bill's keynote from Mountain Towns 2020. And so, David, my question is, are you looking into agrivoltaics as part of it? And then just as a note, I'm from Colusa, California, which is kind of the heart of almond and rice farming. And we're working with a couple of longtime family friends. How can they bring agrivoltaics into their almond farming? And then there's a potential to put it into rice farming as well. So you get the benefit of using land for double purposes. People who have farms can make anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 per acre bringing agrivoltaics. And the long story short, the net benefit is that they found that livestock is healthier because they have shade to go into, so they're not heat stressed. And same with food. Food comes out better as well because it's not heat stressed. And so it just seems like a perfect business opportunity. I'll stop there, David. Love to hear your comments or anyone else.
Sure, and I turned off my screen just because I have low bandwidth. But to answer your question, yes, we're looking into that and other revenue streams. The thought being, can I add another revenue stream to strengthen, the resilience for that rancher? They're going to go through tough times, obviously, with the weather and such, have their ups and downs. If you can create something like that has a more consistent revenue stream, we think that's an opportunity. You have to be careful with the cattle because the cattle can knock the solar panels off, but it's a fantastic thing for sheep and for some of the produce that you grow, and you do create some more shade. So yeah, I have to look at it from the bottom line because a rancher they can't take additional risk. And so can I find a way to create new opportunities for them, and agrivoltaics is a good idea.
Great. The last thing I'd add is there's a breakthrough in Europe right now doing vertical solar. And so instead of doing horizontal, they're doing vertical so they can do it at airports. Breakthrough, it's 75% more effective than regular solar. And so they're picture panels, like three-sided panels going up, then they track the sun and tilt. And so that's another breakthrough that we're trying to bring into urban farming. There's an East Palo Alto project that Lauren Powell Jobs has on 52 acres. It's a community garden in East Palo Alto. We're trying to bring that concept there as well. So again, this is something, Bill, I was going to be wanting to sit down with you and talk about. And anyhow, lots of breakthroughs.
Hugo?
Hi, well, very glad to be here again. I'm Captain Hugo Hendrickson, co-founder of Positive Polar, the first maritime science development corporation based on ocean restoration. And I have a question for Carsten. Is in your book a chapter of something related with the environment of networking? Because it's kind of different to try to network here by Zoom than try to network, for example, if I bring all of these people into a ship and I put them together into a trip, for example. Do you have something related with that in your book? Because that is one of the leads that we are taking to attract investors to our company, because we think that could be a good way. So I'm asking that, if you please.
Yes, thank you for the question. If you read the book, you'll see that the methodology works no matter whether you do this online or offline in small groups or large groups. It's really a very simple approach to teach people how to overcome the initial resistance and the worry of feeling feeling stupid or let's say weak. As I said, once you overcome this first initial resistance or worry and self-doubts, it's a piece of cake. So I teach this to grad schools. I teach this to young people. I teach this to CEOs. I mean, it's the problem is always the same. As I, my long-term goal, maybe this is something that you and I can take offline, is to bring this into every school and every university, because it's a future skill. As per the World Economic Forum, it's a skill that the algorithm still can't do as well as the Homo sapiens. So it's something that we don't teach in schools or universities, but it's something that provides incredible social, individual, and economic benefit. Happy to chat with you offline, Hugo.
Oh, thank you very much, Carsten. I will leave my data in the chat. Thank you.
Dave.
Yeah, hi. Great group of speakers. Thank you. I think my question is probably for Jeff more than anybody else. As I'm sure you're aware, one of the barriers to achieving true circularity and I think perceived value from truly biodegradable polymers is the composting industry itself, which really has objected to taking packaging, one-time use materials made from biodegradable polymers. I think there's a lot of concern about, additives in the plastics and potential for non-biodegradable materials to get into the stream, and it affects the value of the product that they're selling. My own belief is that we need to see the development of an alternative composting infrastructure that is seen as waste management for these materials. And I wonder, what your thinking is, what you're aware of in terms of movement around removing that barrier to the circularity and use of these materials.
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying, and we've experienced that. We've engaged with some of the municipal waste, especially here. We're in the Sacramento area in El Dorado Hills, and talked to Western Waste Management when they initially spoke with us. They were like, "No, stay away. We don't. Even though you're claimed to be compostable." But then once we started explaining what we're actually making it out of, they began to engage with us, and so that's conversation shifted a bit. And so yes, it is a definite challenge. I mean, part of the challenge is, think about it from their side, is they're having a whole bunch of stuff, not always easily labeled, that they have to sort through. So they do have a challenge, and so labeling is a part of the problem that needs to be addressed, of making it clear that, hey, this is truly compostable, and that is, and this other piece that can look very similar is not compostable. So there are some big challenges to work through. So to borrow the theme here of networking, is so we're trying to engage with the waste system itself, partly because it's a potential resource for us to capture waste from, that we can turn into ingredients, and also we want to be able to return it to them. So we're trying to engage with them, have that conversation with them, and keep it going from there. So, but yeah, it's a really good point that we do need to work through.
It's a really good, Dave. I like your point of looking at this as a waste management challenge for composting to evolve into, rather than requiring that everyone push to adhere to composting as it presently exists. So I'm interested. I see Heidi's making some comments, I think, related to this. I'm looking forward to having this conversation further.
And to that point, we are near the end of our official time. It is often uh, our mode that we continue as long as people want to have this conversation. But if you need to leave, you are also, it's welcome to leave whenever you need to go. And we intend to continue these conversations at monthly leadership circle meetings leading up to EarthX in April, at which our focus will be the circular economy, and launching our new circular economy affinity group and campaign called Circle America. We hope you join us to be a part of that.
So please do put down on your on your calendars, April 20th to 22nd in Dallas for EarthX. We will have some great discussions in person there, and you can actually meet each other in person, which, as I'm sure Carsten will attest, is an even better way to network. If we can do it in person, magic happens with that. So we look forward to seeing you there. And we look forward to seeing you in Circle America, which we will launch on that day, on April 22nd, a new affinity group that will focus in on the circular economy and law, markets, and culture of a circular economy. So we will be diving deeply, and we think having an impact by connecting the right people together so that the 60 to $100 billion that will be spent just on packaging EPR legislation in the next 10 years, just in the 7 states that have enacted it so far, so that we can shape the spending of that to assure the best outcomes for the environment and for economic development in the most local areas that we can.
Join us.
Yay.
Thank you to all of the many exciting innovators that joined us today. We wish we could have given you all so much more time. And thank you very much to Carsten Sudhoff for sharing your expertise with us.
Yeah, it's inspiring to see the dedication that people bring to these ideas, putting years behind them, and we want to reward that dedication.